Apple's supplier Wistron to assemble key iPhone component in a new India plant. We've covered this extensively on the channel. It's an area of interest for me, obviously for the Indian fans, but also just for the globe. The landscape right now is kind of strange because of the whole outbreak that's taking place in China. It's also accelerating this conversation around relying so heavily on one particular hub in the world for certain materials, manufacturing. The vast majority of iPhones come from there, but increasingly Apple has been diversifying its, supply chain. And Foxconn themselves, they've gone into India, but the other Taiwanese manufacturer, Wistron, they're doing the same. And the new thing is to do a larger percentage of the manufacturing and assembly in India, as opposed to just sort of the last leg of the journey, having all the parts come in. Now they're talking about assembling printed circuit boards or PCBs right within India. And there's a good incentive. There's a reason for them to do it, because the leader of India, man, I got to remember his name right now. Is it Modi? Do I have that right? On Saturday, India said in its federal budget that it will, from April, begin taxing imports of populated PCBs at a higher 20% from the previous rate of 10%. Populated PCBs. Now, if the parts for the PCBs come into the country and then the PCB itself is populated within the country, that doesn't count. You see what I mean? They get around that doubling of the import tax rate. So this guy, Modi, he's all about this, it appears. I mean, I'm an outsider. I'm just looking from the outside. I don't want to get into the various politics, because you know how politics go, Will. It's beliefs and 7,000 different ideas that have to fit within a campaign and a political party. And I'm just saying, this guy is making moves. Obviously, that's a move with an outcome, a move with an effect. So it appears to me to be working, at least from this standpoint of encouraging brands to, well, essentially what this means is hire more Indian people, create more Indian jobs. If all of a sudden they got to get around this tax rate, but they want to work within India, particularly selling for that local market, okay, fine. Let them populate the PCBs too. Fine. Train them. Go. Apple historically was incredibly tight on this. Now they open things up. Now more and more can be done outside the confines of the typical place that these things come from. So it's interesting. It, of course, has an impact. And the thing we talked about in the past is that increasingly the devices that are manufactured or at least assembled a portion in India, increasingly those are also being built for export. So not just for that domestic market. Now, currently, Foxconn is already assembling PCBs for the iPhone XR within India. So it's like we're at the early stage of it still, but it's like the Hoover Dam. I don't know. The Hoover Dam, it's like they let some water through.
Yeah.
Or they can let a lot. And
Like
if
a
these
slow
policies
trickle.
continue, they appear to be working, maybe they open another...
Floodgate.
A floodgate.
Yes.
The floodgates are opening. Anyway, we can ask the Indian audience how they feel about it. I'm sure there's some people out there, they love this. They say, yeah, go get him. And then there's people on the other end of the political spectrum that says, get him out of my town. Because we're human beings. But nonetheless, that's what's happening now. And India sort of increases its foothold as far as being an important component in the global smartphone game.